Hey, it's Captain Roger. We're going for a walk. We've been learning about the ways that we should walk with God personally, which is good. But as Moses reminded the people, it was also their responsibility to choose leaders who had some specific characteristics and moral habits that would help the nation to walk with God. First, the ruler was supposed to be someone from God's family. And while that might seem obvious, there have been many times in history where nations have been led by kings from other lands, sometimes even kings who never visited the country that they ruled. How's that person ever going to even know or understand or work for the good of the people that they lead? Next, the king is not supposed to build up an army. The words get translated in English as something akin to not buying a lot of horses, but the literal translation implies animals of war, horses as in cavalry and chariots and attacking. A leader is to remember that the Lord is our source of strength, not horses or battleships or bombs. Also of interest is the command that a leader should never take many wives. Now, back in the day, marriage was often used to cement relationships between nations, blending the two into one by mixing the royal families. God says that many wives will lead a leader's heart astray. And while some believe that this is because foreign spouses would bring in foreign worship practices, I think there was more to it than that. I think just like a leader should rely on God instead of military force, a leader is supposed to rely on God over human plans for expansion or security. I make that connection because there's one other thing a godly leader is forbidden to do. They're not to accumulate large amounts of cash. No stockpiles of gold and silver. More than that, it says they're not to have an abundance. I used to think that meant we didn't want leaders who were greedy, but now I think, even though that could be part of it, the main thrust here is still about trusting God. When you are walking with God, you should fear no enemies. You don't need tools of war or even of self-defense. When you're walking with God, you should treat all neighbors with honest respect instead of as people to be controlled by treaties, contracts, or bloodlines. And when you walk with God, you should rely on His provision, not on the wealth that you've accumulated or put away. The things that the world values and the things that God values are different, which a leader should know. Well, how was the leader supposed to know that? Well, when they came to power, leaders were also supposed to write their own copy of God's instructions, being careful to get it all exactly right. Then they were supposed to spend time each day reading and rereading God's words and following them carefully. This was to also not just help them govern, but help them remember that they were no different from anyone else, no better, no worse. Everyone was to walk with God. Everyone was to rely on Him, even if they were the leader. It's something I try to remind myself of every day. Grace and peace to you all. I'll see you tomorrow.